So with the release of the Royal Guard also comes a different style of gameplay here in Ragnarok Origin. Hello everyone, my name is Valdes, and today we are gonna be talking about our War God Royal Guard build. So as I mentioned in our previous video, it seems that the Royal Guard has two specific builds. So it's the Warrior Stance build and the Excellent Stance build. So today, we're going to be talking about the Warrior Stance build, in which we would primarily be using it for PvE. So this is going to be TR, Team Rewards, MVP hunts, grinding, CT, and MA, time space anomaly, just general PvE scenarios here in Ragnarok Origin. So let's kick things off with stats. So our main priority is strength, agility, and luck. Unlike our previous sacrifice paladin, we actually don't need vitality for the warrior stance. And while we don't really need too much luck either, it's just that adding luck also gives us a set amount of physical attack. And so does dexterity. So actually, if you really wanted to, you could split the stats between luck and dexterity just to give you that extra push of physical attack. But primarily, you would want strength and agility. So right now with our current stats, we only have 82 luck and 101 bonus luck. But we're actually getting 265 crit. So we'll be explaining later on where all of this crit is coming from. But that's why you're given the freedom to rebalance the stats. I'll probably be doing that myself as well moving forward. This is the first day we got the Royal Guard, so we're still doing a lot of experimenting. I'll probably be min-maxing this eventually, balancing it out with stat allocation and with enchants. But for now, we're rocking 82 luck, hitting around 265, 266 crit, around 4,000 ignore physical defense, 5,000 PvE damage bonus. For equipment, I opted to go for the tier set. So we're just trying to pump out as much attack as we can. So the tier set actually gives me the most attack and ultimately gives me the most DPS. Now you could go for something like the Charleston set or the King of Resentment set. But as I've mentioned in previous videos, I think there's a bug with the King of Resentment set. I'm not getting the right values for crit damage per agi. With the King of Resentment set. This is Ragnarok, so we do get unlimited bugs in this game. For the Charleston set, we get pretty similar DPS or almost the same DPS as the tier set. But we get that tiny bit of bonus from the tier set. And sometimes when you do team rewards, you're competing with MVP hunts. Sometimes you'd want to squeeze out as much performance as you can from your characters. So I'm going for tier set instead of the Charleston set. The Charleston set is a little bit more of a hybrid build, while tier set primarily focuses on attack. For the weapon, we now have a new divine armament weapon called the Halberd of Repentance. So it's basically how it was with our elemental sword from the Rune Knight. It allows one of your skills called the Crescent Slasher to crit. It also increases its damage by 20%, and normal attacks have a chance to auto-trigger another one of your skills called the Overbrand, and also increases its damage by 20%. And finally, the Warrior Zeal, which is your main damage skill for this build, gets additional damage from your Warrior's Resolve, which is the passive stacks that you get as a third job. So you get up to a 50% damage bonus increase. For our cosmetic accessories, we're still currently rocking the Gray Mask, but I do plan to redeem the Strawberry Bear Cookie given the chance, because for my own personal preference, I do enjoy the tanky playstyle. So as much as I can, I would probably go for more damage reduction. And for the costume and backwear, I've reverted back to our previous costumes that we were using from when we were still a paladin. So we're now using the Floral Elf and the Horn Bunny. So we still use the stylish cap, especially for PvE. It's still pretty good for TR or team rewards. And for accessories, I'm not yet quite sure which accessories we should be going for. No, I'll have to look more into it. But in my opinion, I probably wouldn't be actively chasing down these accessories anymore. We're gonna have a new spin-off of the Nightmare Temple coming up, and it's gonna be giving us Divine Armament accessories. So in my opinion, it might be best to just wait for those. And in which case, we'd be able to switch around the accessories, be able to choose what stats we actually want that would fit our build. For cards, and just like the Rune Knight, we're still able to use size and race cards. So previously, during our Paladin days, size and race cards don't work on sacrifice damage. But now, since we're using Warrior's Zeal, we're able to use size and race cards. And yes, Warrior's Zeal is also affected by elemental converters now. For enchants, it's actually pretty straightforward for PvE. You'd normally want to go for sharp or superior crit, but even melee boon or fighting spirit, it doesn't really matter too much, and the stats that you gain aren't too big. So maybe just go for whichever is the higher level, but it's not really gonna affect your performance too much. But if you really want to nitpick, and given the Royal Guards kit and we do get a lot of crit, you could actually afford to go for melee boon or fighting spirit without having to worry about getting enough crit. For the rest of the enchants, it's the usuals. You go for superior physical attack or PvE technique. You try to go for luck, you try to go for strength. It's just the usuals. Now here's something that we could be very much be changing sometime soon. Maybe by tomorrow, no, I'll be changing it up. But right now, for our skills, these are what we have. So starting off with swordsman skills. So right now for swordsman skills, we have level 10 increased recuperative power. We have level 10 bash, level 1 magnum break, level 5 fatal blow, only level 5 provoke, but you could have this at level 10 if you want, and at level 9 endure. So I'd be probably doing that tomorrow. No, I'll probably reset my skills and have this at level 10 provoke. Just so, you know, when I go TR or team rewards. And for the Crusader skills, we have, of course, level 1 riding, level 5 cavalier mastery, level 3 protection, level 5 smite, level 10 faith, 5 providence, and just 3 auto guard, which you don't really need in PvE. So defensive skills actually aren't too important for PvE. And we have level 10 Spear Mastery. For the Paladin skills, we have level 5 Fortitude. And I do have level 1 Devotion just so we could use our job sigil. It does help out quite a bit in TR or team rewards. We have Spear Quicken 10, 5 Sacrifice, and right now I have 10 Shield Reflect and Defending Aura, but as I mentioned, you don't really need too much defensive skills for PvE. So I'd probably reset this. You know, we wouldn't really be using these defensive skills anyway. Maybe I'll put more skill points into Battle Chant, you know. So all of this is pretty experimental for now, but just to let you guys know, that would be my plan moving forward. And finally, the Royal Guard skills. We have level 1 Piety, of course, which unlocks the rest of the skill tree. And for today, we are going for the Warrior Stance, which is going to be our PvE skill set. So this is also going to be the crit build for Royal Guard. So we have everything maxed out. We have level 5 Warrior Stance, level 5 Overbrand, level 10 Crescent Slasher, level 10 Warrior Zeal, level 5 Divine Mastery. So Warrior Zeal is gonna be your main damage skill. Overbrand is, well, it deals some damage, but the primary use is it gives you a 40% debuff on enemies. It allows you to deal 40% more damage on enemies with this debuff. Crescent Slasher is alright. It's just a little bonus damage, but not really too game breaking. And Warrior Zeal is your new Martyr's Reckoning or Sacrifice, but for Royal Guard. And given that you're not able to use Warrior Zeal with Sacrifice. And for the utility skills, I just have a few points in all three. Prioritizing the Shield of God, which we'll be using the most out of the three. For PvE sigils, we're still using the standard sigils that everyone should have been using. So we're using Meteor, Starfall, and then for the other two, it really depends. So for team rewards, normally we can go for choice sigils like Choice of Fate or Choice Maze. But just in general, we have Cosmic One here. If you have Impale, that would be fine too. And we're also using Painful Drowning, but only because I don't have the higher level sigils leveled up, which are Gate of Suffering and Endless Nightmare. So for Cog Wheels, contrary to the Rune Knight, the Royal Guard isn't too dependent on Cog Wheels, much less Smeldon Cog Wheels. So right now, what we have is the Big Bully, Holy Light Shield, Windlord module, Final Piety, Bloodthirst, and Reflection module, which we'll never be using anyway for PvE. But you can very much just go for all the other general Cog Wheels that we normally use even for other jobs. So it's Bloodthirst, Mana Length Reversal, Omni Chip, Core Overload, Momentum Management module, and Holy Light Shield. And for the expert effects or the job-specific Cog Wheel skills, I think the only one that you need for this particular build is Big Bully. That's it. It's not too important. It's not too game-changing. You're not required to have specific Cog Wheels here. So for our feather setup, we've actually discussed this several times. If you're a low spender or a free-to-play player, these are the feathers that you should be aiming for. You still go for 4 gold, 1 purple. Although we do have presets now, but it's just that, it's very hard to have split priorities, especially if you're free to play or a low spender. Me personally, I focus more on PvP. Although we are working on a PvE build, just to get through our dailies. But my primary focus is still PvP. So we have to go for 4 gold, 1 purple. In which case, we're going for Time, Space, Sky and Day, and Valor for our purple feather. But if you're a mid spender or a whale, of course, you go for Time, Space, Light and Dark, and Valor here. Or maybe even Truth, depending on your spending capability. And for the defensive feathers, I still have Terra, Divine, Light, Dark, and Truth here. But for your purple feather, you will also opt for Order or even Virtue. And I have been working on our Nature feathers as well. So I do plan to swap out our Terra feathers eventually when I get more Nature feathers. For statues, it gets to a point where you don't really have any more options on where to spend your resources. So just level up all the statues that you can. It doesn't really matter too much and it won't heavily affect your account too much. You'd want all of these stats anyway. So for the Nebula path, again, this is very straightforward. A lot of the PvE nodes that you would want are above the x-axis, and a lot of the PvP nodes that you'd want are below the x-axis. But I want to talk about the Emir's tiers that we have here for the Royal Guard. So the first tier lets you get battle rage points on each critical hit, which allows us to get our burst very fast. For tier 2, we get a 20% physical attack bonus when we hit 50 battle rage points or more. For tier 3, we get a 30% physical damage bonus increase and 10% critical damage increase for 2 seconds. And Divine Majesty's duration is increased by 0.5 seconds for each enemy hit. Tier 4 allows us to heal upon killing targets, and Tier 5 increases our move speed, which isn't too important for our PvE build. But in which case, we are looking at a 20% movement speed increase. So it would be pretty fun, although not too important. But it could be essential in some scenarios, especially for grinding. We are a melee class now. If you were a Rune Knight, you'd probably be used to all the long-range wind cutter strikes that you do while grinding. But, if you were a paladin, you remember those times where we had to fight squidgets using our basic attack with sacrifice or even Raidrix, and we have to walk around and move around. So this could be pretty crucial for those kinds of scenarios where you do have to move around to grind your combat time. So 20% movement speed increase is pretty big. Now for Nexus Engine talents, there aren't really any talents that you really need to make the build work. So it's not like when we were Rune Knights, you needed the Dragon Howling talent to make the Rain of Spears talent work. You needed the Rain of Spears talent to make it work. So for the Royal Guard, we don't really require too many talents, or they're not too impactful for our performance. But in which case, for this particular build, the ones that you do want to have are Indomitable Will, Battle Frenzy, and Divine Shield Bliss. When you look at these talents, they're actually not too impactful. So this is a 15% damage bonus with a special condition. This is a 20% damage bonus with another special condition. And this one just gives you a chance to recover some HP. So they're not too game breaking, especially for a PvE scenario, and definitely not game changing. So it's not too important. For traits, I'm focusing on brave, clever, furious, cute, and my sacrificial stat is lovely. I try to get my magic damage reduction from other sources like enchants and maybe even cards like the GTB puppet cards. So I just try to get more attack, physical damage reduction, physical damage bonus, and max HP. For medals, I can't emphasize this enough, but you do want to have all of these stats. Now, they're all very important. They all play their own role, except, I guess, Medal of Wisdom. I just leveled this up because I was pretty dumb, but everything else you would want a certain level of. I did level up some of the pet stats here. You know, pets are also pretty important, especially in PvP. They could be very, very helpful. And also for the Medals of Faith, you know, you just try to go for more HP, more PvE stats, PvP stats, all around. Now, you would want all of these stats. It's all going to be part of your progression for every game scenario here in Ragnarok Origin. And for pets, we're using Genesis. So Genesis is still one of the most OP pets right now in the game. 1-1 has done wonders and does 1-1 things ever since 1-1 was released. Still very, very strong pet, even at tier 0. So my 1-1 right now is at tier 0. But 1-1 is still able to do her job defensively. And especially now that we are playing a tank class. So 1-1 is very, very strong. Earth Lord is also very, very useful. Has always been useful both in the early game and then now the late game for both PvE and PvP scenarios. And Sohi has always been my best friend. Always been my very, very favorite pet. Extremely OP for an A tier pet. Offers a lot of utility both for PvE and PvP. So I've always had Sohi ever since I was still, I guess, a Lord Knight, and then a Paladin, and then a Rune Knight, and then now a Royal Guard, and we're still using Sohi. So now with our training dummy here, I kind of set up the stats here to make it look like a mutant dragon. So let's see how much DPS we can deal. So at around 1 minute, you know, we're hitting around 60-70 million DPS. So at around the 3-minute mark, we're still hitting around 60 million DPS. So I guess that's fine, you know, for a tank class. Of course, we don't expect to hit the gigantic numbers that we were hitting when we were still a Rune Knight. Or maybe if you're like another DPS class like a Warlock. You know, this is a tank class. So I think we're doing fine so far with our measly 60 million DPS as a tank. So not bad, I think. So it took us around 28 seconds to take down a mutant dragon dummy. So in terms of DPS, you know, it's not too bad. We're still pretty unoptimized. This is still just the first day, so we're still trying to learn more about the kit. We're gonna be doing a little bit more min-maxing moving forward. So I'm pretty sure we'll be able to cut down this time in the near future. So that's pretty much it for our Ferocious Warrior Royal Guard, which we primarily use for PvE. If you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the content, be sure to like and subscribe. We will be covering the Royal Guard moving forward in Ragnarok Origin. And coming up next is our Royal Guard PvP build. So turn on that notification bell so you don't miss out on our new videos. Hope to see you all on the next one. Ano naman, converge nila dito. Piso na lang to. Gago patay siya. Nandito. Ano mo? Higop na to lahat to. Tignan natin yun. Push na yung cart ha. Push na yung cart. Ito, sinasalo pa sila. Pinahold ko sila. Go. Push na. Yan. Push na.
Patay nyo lang.
Dito, apat ko. Hold ko.
Nasa likod, Chris.